So we've got two periods, really, haven't we, Mal? We've got partial lockdown as the restrictions ease, and then post-lockdown when all this is eventually over. So let's take a look at schools and universities. What could education look like in the future?
Well, Pat, I think, there's the logistics of it. You touched on it in the introduction too, that there's staggering of lesson times now. Looks like becoming a reality. That's to allow for social distancing and the need in some cases to reduce the load on public transport. And of course, that'll create a whole new reality for some parents who may have children going to school earlier or coming home later. But I think more importantly, in terms of content in the longer term, we'll see more education focusing on mental health skills and the like. We know that some adults have really struggled in this lockdown with anxiety and depression, and social connection is very important to mental health. But children suffer the same problems, and schools need, I think, to do more to provide anxiety management skills, problem-solving techniques, training in logic, training in strategic thinking, even from a young age, because the world that children are moving into is changing so quickly, they will be of great help to them.
Are schools going to move online, do you think? Is that an effective modus operandi?
I think it is, if we look at it as an adjunct, a way of augmenting the classroom, not replacing it. And I think COVID-19's emergency has really provided a catalyst for schools and universities to move more quickly in a direction they would have taken anyway. In some parts of the world now, students are encouraged to watch lectures online and use campus facilities only for things like library research, tutorials and exams. In some areas, even exams are done online. The one thing universities, of course, will have to watch in all of this, Pat, is that while providing digital learning, they're still offering students really high-quality courses. So we need truly independent campus ombudsmen who can, really investigate and respond to all of student complaints about value for money and content.
So turning away from education to the world of work, what's your prediction? Will more of us keep working from home in the future?
Yeah, I think that many people who've tasted the freedoms of working at home have decided they rather like it. And much will depend on the boss, of course, and what he or she will allow. But it's good news for the environment if that happens. I mean, you look at London, 3 million people commute in and around London every day. That's not good for the environment. It also brings employers a boost in productivity, provided that home workers are disciplined and given clear lines of accountability. Of course, there's a flip side. Home working also brings fewer opportunities for social interaction, which is good for mental health and very important to innovation, because innovation is about old ideas connecting to form new ones. And if old ideas are going to connect, people have to connect. And we do that better physically than we do when we're separated by FaceTime or Zoom.
Do you think this will create an army of digital nomads and freelancers with less job security and more remote working?
Well, that's a great question. I think even before COVID-19, there were clear signs in the research we've seen that younger people in particular are eager to test their own ideas in the marketplace, either as freelancers or entrepreneurs. So whether they're starting social enterprises or businesses, they're wanting to get out there and try something on their own. And I think governments generally need to find creative new ways to facilitate or accommodate that trend through tax incentives, maybe training programs. But there was a lot of young people who come back from freelancing into mainstream employment, if we can call it that, frustrated because they've tried something and it hasn't worked. So we need training too in not only how to start something, but how to sustain it and scale a business or an idea for the longer term.
And major social changes, what do you think we might see when it comes to our social lives?
Well, I think for a while there'll be changes just in the way we relate, because we can't be together in large groups, and often a crowd is synonymous with having fun. So we're going to have to find other ways to do that. But I think one of the biggest changes we will see, or could see, is in our attitude to poverty in society, because the pandemic has really hit the poorest in our community worst. They suffer most because of cramped accommodation. For many people, close proximity isn't an option. It's a fact of life. And they have poor general health, more likely to have underlying health conditions like asthma or high blood pressure. And we have rates of contracting viruses now linked to ethnicity because of poverty. So I read just the other day, 35% of people who are critically ill with COVID-19 in the UK are black, Asian, or part of some other ethnic minority, while they account for just 14% of the population. So we need to start closing some of those gaps too in society.
And finally, what about tracking apps? We've heard a lot about tracking apps in the last week or so. Can you explain what they are, what they do, and what the ethical issues behind them might be?
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about them, aren't we? They're also called proximity apps, which basically alert you from your phone when you're near someone who has or has had COVID-19. Of course, they only work if a large enough body of people are willing to sign up voluntarily, and that those people are then honest about their health situation. There are concerns, though, and I have concerns, that proximity apps might be used as tools of surveillance, either by government-related bodies or big tech companies further down the line. We know right now Google and Apple are working together to develop a proximity app that can be downloaded to most of the smartphones on the planet. And big tech companies have already proven that once collected and stored, data can easily be hacked or sold to marketers without our consent. Even the NHS, let's face it, has shown that data security is not foolproof. So it's not just the technology, Pat, it's technology creep, where a tool can be used for purposes that we didn't envisage in the first place.
Yeah, and it's our privacy and everything that entails, isn't it? Do you know, I've been doing this job for years, Mal, literally years, and you are the first futurist I have ever spoken to. And I hope that we get to speak with you again.
Oh, so do I, Pat. I really do. I've loved your questions, and you're a great host. Thank you so much.
That's Mal Fletcher, futurist.